All right, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and start the conference at this time. Welcome. My name is Zach Lust. I'm with 10th Muse Design. I'm a marketing strategist for the company, and my role really is a way to be able to find the right tools and the right fits for the right customers, so that they can be most successful with their marketing strategy and receive the biggest return on investment for their efforts. Marketing, I feel like sometimes is this ambiguous curtain that nobody really can see behind, and it really shouldn't be that way. Marketing, when you look at it from a larger perspective, is actually pretty simple. It's just progressive, meaning that it's constantly working on itself in order to be able to provide the results that basically you want and need. So, today I'd like to start off, for anybody who's just joining the conference, if you're able to keep your phones and your computers on mute, uh, at least initially, that would be great. There's a text or like a chat platform that will be available to you throughout the conference. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask those questions as we go through. And then when I get done with each section, I'll go ahead and answer those questions for you. So that way we're not getting feedback issues and sound issues throughout the conference. But today's webinar is the first out of a larger series. And this webinar will really be speaking to new entrepreneurs who have a really awesome idea for a business, but just aren't sure how to structure the marketing foundation for your company in order to be successful. Or it's for entrepreneurs who have tried to become visible, but just aren't having that type of traction that they want and need. We'll be speaking really to both of these parties. The model for marketing requires a couple different pieces to it. Foundationally, we need to create certain aspects. Certain aspects to your business in order to be able to capture leads and to be able to identify with those leads. And so on the foundation and the infrastructure side, we start with branding. Branding, I'll go into some detail here in just a moment, but is probably one of the more critical pieces of your business, and takes some time to be able to really tune into what your brand is. Your website is the next and probably largest piece to your marketing infrastructure because it's your hub. Everything should be pointed to this hub, and then this hub needs to be just finely tuned to be able to specifically speak your language to your audience. And I think that a lot of people are able to create websites, but creating a website that really is a sales tool is the art. The CRM is another piece to this, and for those that have never heard of that term, it stands for Customer Relationship Management. The CRM is a means to be able to communicate to people in their language about the things that they're interested in. We'll go into detail on all of those aspects today. We're also going to talk about different marketing channels and sales funnels as far as how to bring people into your marketing foundation and how that works. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about, what type of investment is required to be able to create this foundation, and what type of return on investment should you expect and when. So that will be today's webinar. Let's start real quick with just an overview of our foundation. Our foundation is, if we were to compare that to be a body, the brand being the most important aspect really is very similar to your soul. And I say this because it's something that we can experience, but we can't see, we can't touch it, we can feel it. It resonates with us. Just like when you meet somebody for a first time, you have an instant connection with them. There's something going on underneath the scene here that basically drew you to that person or to that product or to that service that you really can't quite explain. And it's in that I can't explain it stage that really brand exists. In our example of the person, the website's like your heart. It's this hub that's constantly pumping these leads from the sources into your website and then moving them around your body, educating them, convincing them that basically you offer the value that you do, and ultimately selling them on your product or your service. Your arms are your marketing channels. So these are the ways that basically we bring people into your system. It's your social media. It's your fishing lines out into the ethers, if you will. It's what pours all of the new leads into the system to be sold. And your brain would be like the CRM. A CRM is a tool that is it adds the intelligence into your marketing strategy by giving them the ability to see the information that pertains directly to them. Let's start with our brand, because being the most important part of any marketing strategy, we start with the thing that's the most hard to define. Simon Sinek, you'll notice the quote mentioned that people do not buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this is absolutely essential to understand when we're working with companies that are brand new. I think that a lot of us will get off onto the aspects of what we do instantly, and we lose people because there's so many other people out there that do what we do. But why we do it is so much more important. And if we can focus down this message into something that's simple and understandable to that person, they will resonate with us. Branding is your identity. It's your forward face to the world. It's your energetic connection with those that basically you want to do business with. It's the reason why you resonate to one product versus another. Why you like some people more than others. Brand is extremely important. It's also the prerequisite for everything else to come. And here's why. You have to have a really strong identity to be able to relate to your people, and then everything should be built with that nice, cohesive, and consistent approach from that point forward. So what do I mean by that? Everything that's forward-facing to your customer should feel the exact same way. And if it is, that perfect customer, that person that basically you've been pining after, will be attracted to you, and they'll become your customer as a result of it. When you build everything based off of your brand, it becomes consistent. And that consistency is what really adds value into the process. People will see you as valuable if you have a nice cohesive front and it's all positioned in the same way and it's specific to them. Our next webinar will go in great depths into brand. It's a very, very deep rabbit hole to be able to go explore, and it's definitely beyond our time limit today. But I would invite all of you to come and join us next week to be able to really go into the details of creating a rock star brand, something that will resonate with your people. I'd like to move on now to the heart of the organization, to our sales hub. Anybody can create a website. I can go to Wix and maybe in about 6 to 8 hours, I can produce a website that has my logo on it, has some text and some pictures that I feel would accurately describe me. But it might not be an actual salesperson. It might not be something that actually creates conversions. And that's how you know if your website is actually a sales tool, is that it will actually produce conversions for you. What's beautiful about websites, and especially making a website your heart or the core of your business, is that if we focus everything to that heart, we can monitor it. And it gives us pinpoint information about where our users come from, what they're interested in, and where they became disinterested and bounced. We know if our sales approaches and our marketing approaches work or don't work at this point. And the reason why is because all of this is analytical. We can see every user's behavior from start to finish, which is why the website's becoming such the heart now of the marketing organization. There are certain factors that just have to be in place for a successful website. And these are things that in our experience, it really has to do with Google and search engines, honestly, because that's how most people find us these days, is by searching on a larger scale. And just like we have customers, these organizations have customers too, and we have to abide by their rules and quality in order to be able to give their users a good experience. And your website really is that hub for that. There's certain expectations that Google would have for a website in order to be able to broadcast them. One of those is that a user experience and an intuitive user interface has to be there for users. There's a really high bounce rate because people don't understand what they're looking at, or because they can't figure out how to navigate the site. They're going to bounce, and Google will notice these rates and will avoid sending people to your website if people don't find it valuable. The other is on the more functional side, is that your site has to be able to load really fast, and it has to be able to exist on multiple different devices. Whether it's a cell phone or it's a tablet or it's a full screen computer, we need the ability to be able to present your information to them in a way that's clear and intuitive to that user. I think the speed is really what disqualifies a lot of the places like Wix or some of the smaller, like do-it-yourself type of companies, because they're built for so many purposes. You have to have a way to be able to load that page instantly on any device, and it's really hard to do that when there's so many purposes to one program, if that makes sense. Websites also have to have excellent copywriting. So your written content or your copywriting for your piece has to be impactful, yet it has to establish some type of emotional connection. Otherwise, we're going to lose our user. Let's face it, the majority of the world does not like to read these days. We need to give them a concise piece of information that's relevant to them, but not overwhelm them to the point where they bounce, and yet still connect with them on an emotional level. It's an art to be able to create the right copywriting, and that's a crucial piece of your website. The other piece is the images that basically we use. If we align all of this with your brand, such as your images and your copywriting, you have a really good success rate of keeping people on page. Images that basically tell your story and engage with the user by affirming that your services apply to them will keep them on the page. Telling a story slowly instead of trying to give them everything on the homepage will keep them on page. Websites are a very fickle machine that basically we need to create, but because it's such an important piece to your marketing experience and to the success of your business, we put a lot of emphasis there, and we feel that you should as well. Our third webinar will go into great detail on the websites and kind of go through piece by piece how to create a functional and highly, finely tuned sales machine. So stay tuned for that. Finally, let's talk a little bit about the CRM aspect. Before, you heard me refer to it as your brain, and that's because it's the intelligence. It's the way to be able to capture leads through your website, drop them into a system that basically manages that user over a period of time. What's important about this is that instead of having to communicate your message in just one shot, if we can capture the information of your user, now we can communicate to them over a period of time, slowly, letting the idea resonate with them and foster within them to where they find the value and they become educated on your services and why it's valuable to them. So the CRM takes something from an instantaneous, spontaneous buy to a longer stream, let it resonate with the person, blossom type of approach. This works exceptionally well for larger ticket items. Like if you're a coach, for example, this is a really important piece because somebody might not resonate with you immediately, or they might become overwhelmed with your full message. But if you can communicate slowly over a period of time, they're going to warm up to the idea and then give you a try. And then once they give you that try, then they'll become your client. It also works really well with large ticket items. like building a website or buying a spa or a pool, where people have an interest, but they're just, I just don't know if I can afford it right now. Maybe I should check back into this in a little while. They'll come back, it will resonate with them. It also helps customers stay top of mind. So, keeping that constant interaction with the customer, leading them back to your website with with the emails that go out to them is really important. But what I love most about CRMs is that they're programmable. And this means that I can send a different message to different people based off of their user behavior. How did they interact with the information that we've sent them so far? Well, if they acted this way with the information, let's send them this email. If they acted this way with the information, let's send them this email because that's where their interests are. Okay. If they've opened up all of the emails to date, but they just haven't purchased, if they haven't converted, well, maybe we should offer them a little bit of a price discount. Maybe they're just having a hard time, justifying the cost. So, maybe a 5% discount at the end of that would be enough if it's just a spontaneous buy and they click and they convert. So CRMs are extremely helpful for warming up new leads. But there's a lot more to them than just that. Think of re-engagement campaigns, where you have a customer. I mean, if you're like a massage therapist, for example, yeah, that massage was awesome. I can't live without that. But 2 weeks later, I forget all about that massage. I get carried away with the rest of my life. Now imagine a re-engagement campaign that reminded me just how awesome that massage actually was. Well, most likely I'm going to end up back on your table because I now see the value of it and it's top of mind. It's right there. It's also great for reputation. We've built a lot of campaigns for customers that will ask them about how their experience was in a way that they don't have to speak to a direct person. And usually you can get honest feedback this way to know what approaches are working well, which ones aren't. How can I reposition ourselves to be able to have a larger impact? It's great for feedback. It's great for reputation. If somebody really likes your service, what if you followed up with another email that said, hey, would you mind posting, something out to Google or TripAdvisor or Yelp or Facebook? Here's a direct link for you to be able to do that would then build your reputation and tell your entire community that other people find you valuable as well. That's really important. Yeah. Another aspect is education. And so, a lot of our clients will use this to be able to educate clients over a period of time and show them, why your services are needed or why there's value in what you do. Okay, there's no questions yet, so I'm going to go ahead and continue on. Let's talk real quick about marketing. So the last aspect to the person is the arms. And this is important because you have to create a way for people to find you. This is your visibility, right? This is how people fall into your body or into your sales funnels. And ultimately, this is then how you teach them your message and show them your brand and convince them that you're the right fit. So marketing is an ongoing expense for every organization that honestly should be budgeted. On the marketing side, let's start off with something called SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization, and we've touched on it briefly as far as what Google's expectations are for the customer. But SEO is actually a lot deeper than just being seen on a search engine. It's the strategy behind user behavior. People will search for the same thing hundreds of different ways. And it's figuring out how your target audience searches for your specific needs. And then being able to find you naturally or organically on search engines. That's really what SEO is. A lot of it has to do with content, and building strong content is essential. It's a healthy website is constantly expanding, but it needs to expand with intention. That's where SEO comes in. You do the research, you understand how people are searching for you, and then you create the content based off of that user's searches. Critical. It sounds a little bit too easy, and honestly, it is. It's just a matter of aligning with the user behavior of your target audience and then building content specifically for them. You can do this with blogs where there's like a template page that's basically created. And then with that template page, we're able to replicate that page over and over with different content for a specific person. It's a very inexpensive way for expanding a website quickly. Videos. I mentioned earlier that people really don't like to read, and it's true. If you can create videos that are short in length, remember, attention is one of those things that a lot of people suffer with as well, and I think that's why they don't like to read. Create lots of smaller videos that summarize what your skills are and why you're the right value for that in the right position, and populate your site with this information. It's extremely effective, and it works really, really well. Case studies are another way, especially for people like coaches where they're working with somebody one-on-one over a long period of time. If you can create an ambiguous case study and then tie that to some type of review, people will be able to justify their spend with you. They'll be able to see the value through somebody else who recommends you in a type of case study. And then landing pages are really great for like specific services. Like for us, for example, we'll have a very specific page just for SEO, and it's just for that one particular service page. So if people in my area are searching for SEO, they're going to land on that page. So those are kind of different ways that basically we can expand your site normally with SEO. On the other side, there's SEM. SEM, it stands for Search Engine Marketing. Now, search engine marketing is like buying the VIP ticket at the concert. You don't have to wait in line. SEO is one of these things that's an organic type of flower. It grows over time. It becomes stronger. It's progressive. It builds on itself, and eventually, that flower actually blossoms, and you're visible across a lot of different channels, and you're drawing a lot of people to you. SEM is what we use in the short term. So if your site doesn't have that type of visibility naturally right off the get-go, SEM helps drive users to your site to be able to prove to Google that you are a valuable asset and that you're adding value to their customers. And then as a result, it's a way to be able to bump yourself up organically over time. Basically, the way that it works is that you basically pay for a very specific phrase. And you say, I have a budget of X amount for this period of time. And when somebody clicks on my advertisement, I get charged, let's just say it's $5. So if I had a $20 per day budget for that specific keyword, I would get 4 clicks a day as a result of having that. I would show up at the top, people would click on me, they would come to my website. And then if my website was a good enough sales tool, I would either gather their information or they would convert on the spot. So that's kind of how SEM works. It really has to do with an advertising budget and a spend. And so these are things to consider with a brand new website, of just making sure that you have a little bit of a budget out there to be able to broadcast yourself out. For people like coaches or people that are more service one-on-one based, social media is a fantastic mechanism for drawing in leads. It can be used in several different ways, but social media is great for finding small groups of people that have like interests. For example, let's say that I had cancer and I was looking for ways to be able to overcome my illness. I might go onto Facebook and join a cancer recovery group in order so that I could communicate and talk with other people that are experiencing cancer and how they're trying to deal with that particular illness. If you were a coach that was specific to cancer, you might be able to go into these groups and be able to communicate to people and offer value to people in a very cohesive way, in a way that basically it's very target rich, with very little effort. And so social media brings the whole world into these little micro groups. And it's just a matter of finding the right micro groups and then messaging yourself in a way that would provide value to that specific group. Social media is also great for localities. So I have a customer that is a CPA here in St. George. And what's interesting is that basically, even though he doesn't get a lot of interaction, because accounting is accounting is rather boring. It's actually pretty hard to advertise them on social media. But the brand awareness that people see as a result of that, just by seeing his logo cross their screen on a regular basis, reminds them that he's there. And then they go and find him naturally, organically. They go to his website, or they'll just show up inside of his store. So sometimes just staying top of mind with social media and being brand awareness on a locality is really important too. So what I'm trying to say is it can be used in a lot of different pieces. Social media is big enough that we actually have a webinar dedicated specifically to that. It'll be the last webinar in this series with Sharon Rosenbaum. So be sure to, to tune into that. I think that you'll find a lot of value with it as well. Other channels that are out there that I'd like to touch on briefly is a referral-based marketing channel. Referrals are really important because if somebody else that you find important likes you, then most likely they're going to like you as well. The key is finding the right person to be able to represent you and to be able to get that type of referral. So you can do that by advertising on other people's websites, creating advertisements and putting them out there, or you can do that by linking in with somebody that's bigger than you. Like let's say somebody had a really large blogging community, and inside of their blogging community, let's just say that they had 10,000 followers, and you associated with this person, aspired maybe to be this person, or they were a symbiotic type of relationship to your market. You might ask them to be able to create a blog specifically for you with the messaging that basically you provide them. And then their customers would then find value with you and link back to your site. So that's what I mean by more referral-based marketing. It's great when it's a referral-based type of community. You can use this also with your CRM too, just by saying, hey, if you refer me, I would be willing to give you a kickback as a result of that. Kickbacks, I usually phrase those type of things in terms of, hey, you've been willing to extend your reputation to me with your contact. I'm willing to compensate you for taking that risk. And then the last is networking, which I think that no matter your business, networking is really important in order to be able to kickstart your organization and get those initial clients. The key with networking, again, is that you have to have a hub to be able to lead them to. So again, everything that we're doing here, no matter of what the marketing arm is, everything is pointing back to your hub. And then we know what's working, what's not working. Where should I exert my effort? Where shouldn't I? Right? And then if the website's working properly, then it creates the lead, which drops into your CRM. And then with that CRM information, then you're actually able to convert them into a sale, because most people, it takes time to be able to resonate with. So that's kind of how the infrastructure of marketing works. Let me look real quick and see if we have any questions. It looks like so far we don't. We'll open up a whole section at the end as well for questions, but I'll go ahead and move on a little bit onto our investment and return on investment category here. Oh, whoops, I had another slide. Look at that. Marketing channels, that's right. So the important thing to understand here and with this particular image is that marketing channels are like a boat. If your heart was a boat and you're throwing thousands and thousands of fishing lines out into the ethers, every one of those fishing lines is for a very, very specific target audience. And when that target audience bites on that, you pull them into the boat. They then become educated. They understand your brand. They understand what you stand for. And they'll do one of two things. They'll either bounce because it doesn't apply to them, and we learn from that interaction as well. Or they're going to land into that and say, this is exactly the person that I've been looking for. I want to follow this person. Here's my information. Let's move forward with this. So that's kind of how the marketing channels work. Think of them as going fishing over a period of time. Let's move on from marketing and get a little bit more into our return on investment. It is just like anything else, creating a foundation. There's a bit of an ante, and I think that a lot of new entrepreneurs that are coming into it just don't understand what's actually required of them to be able to build a really strong foundation. if we were to do some curves based off of time and investment, we can kind of see at what point cost comes into play. On this curve, we start off really high because we have to invest into the website and our branding. We have to invest in our CRM and some initial marketing and advertising in order to be able to become visible, right? And then over time, that cost becomes less and less and less. And in fact, the drop off for that specific curve is actually really fast. Now notice down at the bottom of this curve that it becomes it becomes more like a flat line over time. This is because your investment really never actually stops. You should always have some type of marketing budget. Towards the end of this, though, it turns more into your advertising budget than it really does your like branding or website piece, which is why it's more upfront and less over a period of time. The next curve is your return on investment curve. It starts off right near zero. And over time, it exponentially grows. So your return on investment basically is it will change depending on your industry and who your target audience is. It's really important, though, to know that basically we can track your curve and then start to estimate what you should expect in the future based off of the results that we have. Because this curve exists with every type of company, no matter who you are. We can say, all right, your marketing efforts have supplied this type of return on investment. Therefore, we can expect next month's or next quarter's return on investment to be this much. And then we can start to grade ourselves against that and be able to determine how effective our marketing is actually working. So, this is where the more statistical approach to marketing comes into play. Realize that basically we have the analytics, though, to be able to show you and to have the transparency to understand, is this effective, is this not? How do we position ourselves? How do we adjust our program going forward to make sure that the return on investment is happening and that it's becoming profitable for you? There's a couple different points that I really want to point out on this particular curve as well. The first is the tipping point. A tipping point is a position where marketing starts to become really, really easy. And it's because your brand is starting to become recognized. Your reputation is starting to become recognized. And your brand equity is becoming realized within the marketing channels. So people are starting to react to your marketing more and more. And as a result, there are more and more conversions as a result of it. At the tipping point, life gets really easy for you. You become profitable. You really start getting a lot of enthusiasm about your product. And your biggest challenge at this point is, how do I hire people and how do I grow my organization to keep up with growth? Another point that I need to point out on this is really where a lot of people drop off. I mean, I've seen a lot of young entrepreneurs that just don't come into this with the right mind frame. They don't have enough budget off the get-go, so they spend a lot of money up front, and then they don't account on the advertising or the marketing to be able to follow up with, and they don't take into account how slow the return on investment curve actually occurs, and they have no way of monitoring it, and they give up. This happens a lot, and you see people with these really amazing ideas, ways to really make impact or really change the way that the world works, give up because they simply are cash poor at that point where they're almost to their tipping point. It's important to know this, that every organization goes through this curve. I recommend young companies save up a little bit of money off the get-go and come into it knowing that there is this ante, that there's this initial buying chip that you have to have. And if you do it correctly, you won't have any waste. Where we see a lot of people fail as young entrepreneurs is they just start throwing stuff at the wall, hoping something will stick. But it's wasteful. There's no intention or strategy. If you have a really awesome website, but you have no brand, you have no messaging, you won't have any conversions. Right? If you have a really awesome CRM, but you have no sales funnels to be able to draw those people in, to be able to get the leads, they won't work. Likewise, if you have an awesome brand, but you're not visible, your company's not going to work. It's a combination of these things together that give you so much power and so much traction as you're growing your company. And so that's where I'd really like to focus my intent with this message, is just that the foundation is really critical to build. And I'm not saying that every company has to have a CRM to be successful. That's, you might have a very spontaneous type of purchase where you really don't need a CRM. Every company is different. And so finding somebody to be able to strategize with, to be able to figure out what are the right tools that I need to adapt into my infrastructure to be successful, that's the direction that I would recommend that you go. Let's go into the next slide here. Expected infrastructure costs, and these are kind of like a bare minimum kind of point of entry. So what should I be able to expect coming in to be able to build a quality website that's a sales tool? To be able to build a really good brand and have a logo and collateral that basically represent that brand. How much should I spend on a CRM, and what type of infrastructure costs on a bare minimum should I be looking at? In our experience and in our market, because if this is in California or New York, it's a very different cost frame. But where I live and the people that I work with, you would expect to spend maybe around $8,000 on a minimum. $2,000 for branding is just about right. $4,000 for a website, that's a very base website, but that's about right. And your CRM is about $2,000 to program and create the messaging and the initial channels for. And then all of these will grow over time. The key is that in addition to this $8,000 for your infrastructure, you also need to take into consideration having money for the actual advertising. So this is just infrastructure cost. Now we need to dump people into the actual sales machine. So that's the next piece. A fine-tuned machine, marketing works like this. The more you advertise out to the community, the more leads fall into your sales funnel, right? If those sales funnels are appropriately positioned, then those will convert into actual conversions. Be able to get sales from those people. It's just a matter of creating the right machine to be able to drop people into the sales funnel. And once the machine's built and it's tested and it's fine-tuned, what's really awesome about this piece is that you have a really clear idea of, okay, well, I put in X amount of money up here for advertising, and I know historically that I get X amount of conversions as a result of that effort. And now it becomes a water faucet. I can turn on and off these leads as I need to, monitoring my growth, having control over the growth of my company over, throughout a period of time. And knowing my budget really well, as I progress, I can say, well, I advertised 5,000 over this particular period and I got this much. If I were to put in 10,000, it would be realistic to say that I would double that. And then, and then also watching that curve over a period of time as your organic side starts to grow, which is your website taking off naturally. And then your marketing and your advertising can go less and less or be redirected into future channels. So that's how the system works. From a strategic point of view, these are the base tools that we kind of work with, and then we figure out what pieces are needed for each particular customer in order for them to be successful with their niche audience. So at this point, guys, I'd love to be able to open it up to some questions. If you would like to either text or if you want to unmute yourself, please feel free to answer, ask any questions that you might have. I'm sure I didn't do that good of a job answering all the questions, guys. Please feel free to ask if you have anything.
Zach, hi, it's Lucinda.
Hi, Lucinda. How are you?
Good. Yeah, so I do have a couple of questions. And first, I just want to say, Zach, that was so great.
Oh, well, thank you, Lucinda. That's really kind of you. I appreciate that.
I love, I've been flailing around, not understanding what I'm doing with trying to launch my business and knowing that I needed stuff like what you're talking about, but not really understanding how to get it and what order. And you made it all very simple and clear to someone who's been around business, but not really like trying to develop my own, so none of these terms are new, SEO, actually SEM is new to me, but it's all, I was aware of it, but I just feel a huge relief now knowing that in this seminar and the next couple that I'm going to understand things and know what order to do things in.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you, Lucinda. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of questions do you have? How can I help you?
My question is about this last piece that you mentioned, the budget for advertising. Yes. I would love it if you would, because I do have, as you know, Zach, I have a website, but I wish I'd gone with you in the first place to do the website, because I'm sure I don't have CRM and, anyway, but that's done. That's water under the bridge. So now what about the budget for advertising?
Gotcha. Okay. So, what I would do in this case, Lucinda, is we need to look specifically at what you already have in place. A lot of customers come to us with some type of infrastructure already in place. It isn't a matter of replacing. I would rather build on top of, or build in conjunction of, to be able to get you to your end goal. With most people, it really does start at the brand, though, to be able to make sure that everything's aligned with brand. So that would be the first step. The second step is looking into, is your website functional? Do we need to adjust the message? Do we need to adjust the imagery? Or the user experience in order to be able to align with who your target audience is? Remember, it's a fine-tuned sales machine. And in all reality, we learn from the audience. I don't have a crystal ball to be able to say, I know every audience perfectly. It'd be crazy to even presume that I could. It's a matter of learning from your specific user behavior and then adjusting the website as it needs to be adjusted over a period of time. That's what makes a really good sales tool. And then it's finding out how to be able to draw those customers into that hub, into your website hub, and then eventually land them into your CRM if you choose to go the CRM route. It just, the CRM really has to do with the conversions. It exponentially increases the number of conversions you have, because most people take time to resonate. It does take time to do that.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I guess another question, and I don't know if I should ask this here in a general forum or maybe ask you or Kelly personally. I'll go ahead and ask it, and then you can tell me if it doesn't apply to other people enough.
Oh, yeah, please.
So I have my plan with my marketing was to develop a line of products for sale, which I have a lead magnet already, and then I have another product that is almost finished, but Kelly's going to redo the graphics on it for like $37. And I have a number of other ones that I haven't started creating, but I have a plan for it. And I'm wondering, because I am eager to get started, I've already invested this other money in the other website, but now I'm coming on with you. And so I wondered if I could work on those products even before I have a brand, or if branding, is important before anything else, even products that, what I do, I've been doing for a long time, 30 years. I don't think even what my brand is, I don't think it's going to change what I would do in these products necessarily, because it's not like I'd be starting from scratch with things.
Absolutely.
So I want to, because coming up in the winter, in November and December and January, I'm going to have more time to work on products. And so I'm wondering, how long does branding take and messaging, or could I start working on those things on the products now, and then even before the brand is complete?
That's an awesome question, Lucinda. To answer it, going back to the metaphor of the human body, the brand really is the soul. So everything that basically you do with your organization, whether it's your message or your programs or your website, all have to be in alignment to that same brand. So,
right.
So if you haven't already aligned your brand, I would take the moment and align first. That's the best place to start. Make sure that you're in alignment with your brand first. And then once you understand that, and you have, on the branding side, we do a lot more than just a logo. Like it's basically we'll go into cornerstones, we'll go into why statements, and we'll go into
What's a cornerstone, Zach?
and archetypes. So those three pieces, a cornerstone is basically an intention. So imagine that basically you would describe your intention maybe with hundreds of words, right? And if you can boil down this intention into something that is absolutely simple for you and your audience to be able to understand, now we have a message. Now we can accurately display that forward. Whereas before it's static, it's too much. The message gets lost because we're going in too many different directions. So
Right.
cornerstones create the mantra. That's your beat. That's your heartbeat for your organization, and everybody's jamming to the same drum. Okay. Your archetype is also called an avatar, depending on who you speak to, but that's a representation of your target audience. So that's saying like, let's actually describe this person in written format and maybe even create an image of this particular target audience member all the way down to their beliefs, their emotions,
all the way down to what?
Struggles, all the way down to their beliefs.
Their beliefs. Okay.
Not just that it's a 37-year-old male who is interested in this particular activity like hockey and does this and this, but more down to what actually motivates this individual. Like that archetype, when you have that, you can speak directly to this person in everything that you do. So all of your messaging becomes clear and consistent.
Right.
All of your all of your different speeches and your different programs would all align to that same message, and then it will align to your target audience. And what you'll find is that you'll draw just that target audience to you, and you'll grow exponentially because you're drawing the right customer to you. So if you haven't started there, go back, make sure your brand is intact, and then move forward with the other pieces. And then you'll find that it's really easy to adjust the pieces that you already have. Sometimes it's just adjusting the imagery or the written content on your website. But I mean, depending on what you have, we could probably work with what you have or start over if it just looks like we're not going to be able to do it.
Okay.
Case by case.
That makes total sense, Zach. All right, I will relax and be patient about all of it. So I guess I'm assuming you can't really answer my original question about how much the budget for advertising is, because it really depends. Is that right?
It does. I mean, really, you can be as aggressive as you want to be with advertising. What I would say is start reasonable and see what type of return you get. See if that channel's clear. So let's say you wanted to invest into some social media to be able to see if you could get leads into a sales funnel. Okay. And you go into very specific groups and you post some ads and you run an advertisement that's very specific to a niche market. And let's say that converts to 10 leads. Then we have a baseline to be able to determine, okay, we invested $500 and we got 10 leads. And these are totally hypothetical numbers. It's going to be different for every single industry. But until we start going in and actually looking at that, we're not going to have a baseline to be able to understand what type of cause and effect is related to the system.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
And I guess I'll have to wait for Kelly's seminar next week on branding to understand more about what's involved in that.
Yeah, Kelly will go into some great detail on the branding.
Okay.
The soul of the company is a hard thing to form. It takes a lot of intent and time, and it needs to resonate and be tested. So yeah, she'll go through the whole process though, as far as what we take to get you there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Zach.
Thank you, Lucinda. It looks like we have another question that came in that says, if the budget is not large enough to do all of these things you suggested, which one would you recommend starting with? Answer that question directly. I would start with your brand. You can do a lot of marketing efforts on your own. Like social media, you can educate yourself on how to do social media and be able to advertise out there. But if you don't have a really good brand to be able to begin with, then the efforts are kind of wasted. So I would I would always start with your brand if you haven't done so already. And then once you get your brand solidified, then work on your website, because you have to have a hub to bring everybody to. And then once you get your website solidified, then you can start actually reaching out with marketing arms, maybe like social media or to SEO, and see if we can't draw people into that website, and then watch their user behavior and see how they perform. If needed, we can always add on a CRM at that time to be able to get larger conversions for those leads if they're willing to give you their information. So hopefully I answered that one okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask at this time if you do.
Zach, Mike Moore here. I just wanted to say thank you. I was introduced to the firm through Sharon at the Awaken Your Impact event in Denver. Had a conversation with her, which was also very helpful on our website. And so anyway, I look forward to continuing this education series and using you guys' services. We're not quite there yet, but I liked what you told me about your packages with branding and websites. So anyway, thanks for this service.
Oh, you're very welcome, Mike. Did you have any questions? Is there anything I can help you with specifically?
No, that was all clear. I'm just looking forward to, I'm studying this from multiple angles, and everything you're saying is congruent with what else I'm hearing, and just trying to get my head wrapped around it. And really, my pausing right now is just I need to do some strategy work before I'm ready to jump in with both feet. But anyway, thank you for your help on the path here.
Well, you're very welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining the webinar today. I'm so glad you did.
Me too. Okay, bye.
Take care. Okay. Is there anybody else who has any questions that I can answer for them at this time? All right. Well, guys, to conclude, I'd just like to thank all of you for taking the time to be able to join the webinar today. Realize that we are here at any time to be able to assist you. We have a team here at 10th Muse Design that you can reach out to if you have questions or if you need help with strategy to be able to move forward. We're a creative and a digital agency who really focus on our customers' growth. And that's extremely important. Being able to grow with our customers is really what our intent is. And that means pulling out the right tools for the right situation. And so we're happy to help you strategize and to be able to figure out what type of course of action you need for your specific needs. Also, we communicate a lot via Facebook and social media. So please jump out, find us on Facebook, like us. We'd love to be able to communicate with you that way. And then, next Tuesday will be our next webinar for the branding. And so please stay tuned for that and come and join us. So thank you, guys. Definitely appreciate it. You guys have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday, and please be in touch with us soon.